All right, folks, this is Scott with the Game Audio Institute, and we are back in 2023. Yes, that's what it is. And we are ready to go diving back into scripting and stuff like that with the scripting shorts. I've got some really cool idea to be able to show you on how to get kind of the same functionality that you would inside middleware like Fmod or Wise. So basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to examine the strength and the possibilities of coroutines, C# coroutines. Yes. So, of course, obviously, you might want to be able to use those great pieces of middleware, but what if they are not available to you at the game company? What if you just want to challenge yourself and learn a little bit about this? That's why I'm here to teach you a little bit as what I know about some coroutines and how to use them to get some really cool options going inside your games. All right, with just Unity Audio. All right, see you there in the next bit. All right, so we're here in our scripting shorts project, and we're going to basically start out. We're just going to basically duplicate a piece of one of these things here and start all from scratch. And this is basically going to have, we're going to have a different sound effect. We're going to play that, and we're not going to play it on awake. We're just going to basically set ourselves up with a script, and we're going to play from the audio source here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very simple example of what we can use coroutines for. One of the ways that we can use coroutines is that we can kind of think of them a little bit as like a separate update loop. But probably one of the most common things that I certainly learned at when I was first dealing with coroutines, one of the first things that I had to deal with when I actually came from Unity script, you don't know this, but Unity used to actually have a sort of JavaScript-based language that could do a few things that the C# language didn't do the same way. And one of the things that I had to completely relearn from scratch was using a coroutine to wait for something. And that is what you have to do. You can't wait for things directly in code except by using the update loop. But you can use a coroutine because it kind of acts like an update loop, okay? So let's show you what I mean by that. We're going to click Add Component here, and we're going to go over to the new script, and we're going to add ourselves a new script. We're going to say wait to play. Okay? That's what it's going to be called. Click. Okay? So wait to play, and it'll go and do its thing. I'll click wait to play, and we'll double click that and open up our friend, the code editor. So wait to play is going to have the start and this update, and we're not going to use those necessarily, but we don't need to really blank about just yet. Update is going to do some pretty cool stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to be able to do some cool things here with this. But what we need to do, weirdly enough, of course, because, you know, game engines are weird and programming languages are also weird. The idea ends up being that we are going to create a coroutine, but a coroutine is not called a coroutine in C#, at least in this particular case. We are in fact using a term called the enumerator. That's what it is. And it has to be IE, capital E, and then numerator. So we're going to say, wait and play. I'm not going to call it wait to play because that's what the name of the script is called. Enumerator, wait and play. Okay. And so the first little tip about enumerators when you make them, usually when you make, say, a void, like a void start and a void update, you can basically just leave them alone with nothing in them, and this will be fine. But unfortunately, if you do that inside Unity with an enumerator, here's what's going to happen to the console. The console is going to say, oh, wait, not all paths return a value. Not all code paths return a value. What the heck does that mean? So what it means is, you notice these other ones are saying void start, void update. That means they don't return anything. That's why they're called voids. There is a void. There's nothing to return. However, anything other than the word void is going to have to return something, even if it's nothing at all, okay? And one of the ways you could return nothing at all is by simply typing return null, okay? So you can just say return null, and if you save the script while you're making stuff up, it means that you'll just be able to at least, compile the code in the meantime. So that's always a good tip to basically have, okay? So in this case, though, we are going to do a slightly different thing than returning null, because we want to wait for a certain amount of time. So as again, this was oftentimes I was having to do things where I was waiting a certain amount of time for things. And like I say, when I was doing it in the old Unity script, I could just directly do it in the code. But in C#, I have to use this enumerator to do the same things. And what we have to do is use this yield statement. And yield is pretty much the most primary thing about a coroutine. You can use a bunch of different ways of yielding your statements to be able to do different kinds of things. But we're going to use the most basic one, which is to wait a certain amount of time. So in this case, it's going to go yield and then return and then new and then wait for seconds. Yield, return, new, wait for seconds. And then inside the parenthesis, we need to put in the amount of seconds we want to wait. And it's a float value, so we have to keep the F in there. So we're waiting 5 seconds, and then we're going to go play the sound. So to play the sound, we need to obviously create ourselves an audio source so that we can actually play the sound. That would be useful. So we're going to go public audio source. Now, I actually can tell you can do this cool stuff. I've been trying to get into the practice of doing this. You can create private variables and make them show up in the inspector, which if you're not using them in other scripts or anything like that, it's better to keep those variables private rather than public. So we can basically make a private field be visible and usable in the inspector by just simply typing in square brackets serialize field like that, okay? And then we do that, and we can then create a public audio source, or a private audio source, I should say, and it'll all work perfectly fine. And so I'll just call this wait source. Okay, so private audio source, wait source. Now, it's kind of important to understand that sometimes you want things to be public. So because you want them to be used by other scripts that are not that script and stuff like that. So public is usable for that particular reason. But if you're using everything internally inside its own script and you're not having to call it from an external script, then there's no reason to make it public, really. So you could keep into the practice of using serialized field in order to make those assets, protected and a little bit more private and less accessible automatically. So there you go. So basically now what we want to do is we're going to click yield return, wait for seconds, and we want to make our sound play. So that'll be pretty easy. We'll just say wait source play. And we could potentially use any number of things. If we wanted to, we could use play one shot as well. But we have a little bit of an issue, and that is that we can't actually play this because nothing's told it to play. It's just going to sit there and wait for being called. And now we can actually call it, and we do call it by calling it a coroutine. This is going to be start coroutine. And the practice that I'm trying to get into more often, I was using quotes before for this, but you don't have to. So I'm going to call start coroutine, and then inside the parenthesis, I'm going to put the name of the coroutine. Okay, wait and play. And then I want to put the parenthesis after it, the open and close parenthesis, because that is exactly the way that it's represented there. So it's going to be start coroutine, wait and play. Now inside the parenthesis, if I have more variables to add, because there was more variables to add here, if I add more variables, and we can easily show you that. It's very, very simple. Then we can basically say, we can create different amounts so that every time you call this enumerator, it would have a different time to wait or something like that. And that's very easy to do. But let's just do a really simple example. Wait 5 seconds, play the sound, okay? So that's pretty much it. And once we do that, we now have, by the way, we got the serialized food, and even though it says private, it's going to show up in our inspector on our object once the code compiles correctly, of course. And basically you can see none audio source. We'll drag old cube number 3 over that, and that will basically do that fine. We do want to make sure there's no audio clip here, that there's no play on awake here, that we are in spatial blend, okay? So technically speaking, 5 seconds after this game starts, it should play the audio correctly. I didn't put the sound file in, so I should probably do the sound file. So I'm going to just find some beeps here to play. It would be helpful if I actually played some sound files, wouldn't it? Okay, let's do that. I'm going to put my beeps in here. So here we go. I have my beeps because I did play, not play one shot. So let's try that again. Did you turn it on? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there we go. All right. So that's just the simplest demonstration of how you can use a coroutine to do some pretty cool stuff. Now, you can choose a bunch of different ways of doing this. There's a ton of different things that you can do. And we'll start showing you a little bit more about all the different varieties of what you can do if you just know how to wait. All right, folks, that's basically it for this one. We just wanted to give you a really small example of how coroutines can do a simple job of waiting on things. We've got a lot more possibilities with this coroutine thing. I've been very inspired by these blog posts by this guy, John French. I will give a little link in the description below there. But anyway, if you happen to like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, you can do the other thing. And obviously, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to find out more about the cool videos that we're going to be doing, because we are definitely going to be doing some cool videos. Pretty sure that somewhere around this time period, we're going to be dropping the Tetris Effect on you, which will be really cool. Little analysis of a very excellent puzzle-based game that is really awesome music, has a really awesome music system in it. And we'll probably have a speed run and more exciting things coming up. We even have our global game audio contest coming up as well for our winners. It's going to be only for schools only, but that's the idea. But anyway, I hope this helps you get your game audio on, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.